Hi and welcome back. Thank you so much for stopping by for another visit if you've been here before, and welcome if you haven't been. I appreciate it. So today I thought we'd do just a quick update on my few little paths I have here. And I'm going to start with my male star. She was sold to me as male hell, but when I looked at the pictures, she looks more like a male star than a male hell to me. So that's what I'm calling her, and that's what we're going to go with. So she is not the first Paphiopedilum that I've had, but she's the first solid green one that I've had. All the others that I've had, which is about 4 or 5, were these model leaf ones, and I quickly killed them because I treated them as Phragmipediums, not Paphiopedilums. So just because it says slipper orchid care, pay attention to what kind of slipper orchid they're giving you the care on. But anyway, so Miss Mel Hell here, or Mel Star as I'm calling her, came with this fan that you see right here in the middle. And she did come in bloom. As you can see, there's her old spike. And she produced 4 fans, one of which I did cut off a couple of months ago, or maybe a couple of weeks ago. But it looks like she's got a new growth trying to come off of there. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. But she is starting to absorb the leaves, which is natural. So don't get freaked out if your Paphiopedilum, the older growth, starts absorbing itself. If it's on the newer growth, then be concerned. But if it's on the older growth, that's natural. Because what mom does is, after she blooms and produces her offshoot fans, she starts giving her energy to those babies. So that energy is getting absorbed, and you just kind of have to deal with the ugly. And again, for those of you who have watched my videos before, know I don't like tatty looking plants. However, with Paphiopedilums, I'm going to have to settle. But she does have 3 nice growths. So she's got this one here, and this leaf keeps falling wanky. That's what that stake is for. I hold her up like that, hoping that leaf will kind of straighten itself back out. And then she has, excuse me, this growth right here. And then this one here was the first one she pushed out, and it, I believe, is completed. So I put this stake here to help kind of hold her upright to keep her from bending over, just in case she wants to produce me a spike, because this one does not bloom from a sheath. It actually blooms from a spike coming out. So like I said in a previous video, I don't know if she's going to bloom for me again off of this fan or not, or even one of these 2 back here, but I'm hoping that with the next growth that she'll bloom again. She's a beautiful, beautiful yellow, big flower. The flower is like that big. It's just absolutely stunning. So, had her since April. Felt pretty confident that I could take care of her. And I decided I think it was like in November. Did I get all these in November? Let's see. Nope, it started in October. In October, I got, let's see. I believe it was this one. Let's see. Yeah. Nope, I got this. So it was November. I did get these all in November. Well, in November, a couple of months ago, is when these were really popular in my nursery that I like to go to. It's Nick's Garden Center in Denver. And this one here, the Shinyi Heart, is a beautiful red Paphiopedilum. And she came with this new fan already started. And her modeling is a little bit lighter. And what I like about the model leaf ones is they all have interesting, like, even though they're all modelable, do you see the difference in the different ones? Even this lighter one here, the Macrobay Pops, is a lighter one as well. But they still have their own unique look to them. And another good thing about Paphiopedilums is even when they're not in bloom, this right here makes them interesting. But they are all potted in sphagnum and bark mix. I had them in decorative pots, but what I was noticing is they would dry to about the middle, and then the bottom would stay wet. Well, I didn't want to keep the bottom wet. Even though the moss is kind of connected, it was still drying out a lot quicker. So I've taken them out of their decorative pot, minus the Macrobay Pops, because he is still in his original nursery pot. But I took them out so that it'd dry out a little more evenly, and I water these about once a week is what I'm finding. They do get watered with my tap water, except for once a month. I do water them with a very mild fertilization. They get between 80 and 100 parts per million of MSU. I don't give them a lot of feed. From what I've read and researched and found with my male star, they don't require a lot of fertilizer. So for them, I do a special fertilizer. I don't do it for all my orchids, but for these guys, I will. But she is continuing to push out this new growth here, and there is a grow light right above shining down on them. So they're getting that nice light, bright light without glaring light. And then we have the, which one is this? The Hungshin Red Apple. This one is the most beautiful vino color. Oh my goodness, it's just gorgeous, gorgeous. Now she is the smallest one that I have, but I like that lime modeling in there. That's just really pretty. But again, as you can see, Mom is starting to absorb some of her leaf, giving that energy to this new growth right here. And this new growth is shooting up pretty quickly. When I first got her, I did not see the new growth. I noticed it a few days after purchasing. But I do try now, and from having watched several different YouTube videos and just doing some research outside of YouTube on like Google and, yes, Wikipedia, it is advised that when you're buying these guys to try to find some that already have a new fan growing or multiple fans growing, which is even better. So let's talk about the Spring Pleasure. Look at her. Look how big she is. So this one here is the mama plant of this one. And then this mama is now producing this new fan here. And if you notice, the paths are kind of potted a little bit lower, and that is because you want those roots to go directly into the media as soon as they come out, because if they don't get into the media, they will dry out, die, no roots. So you don't want to bury them. I tend to put them in, let me see if I can find, here we go. We'll just use Miss Mel Star here. But I try to use the first connection of the fan, and I'll put it right at that. And then I try not to put any water right next to the plant. I'll water it around the edge like I do with the rest of mine, just to make sure that I don't get water in there, because these can also be susceptible to crown rot if you get water in the leaf joints. But back to the Spring Pleasure. So Spring Pleasure and Macrobay Pomps have very similar look to them. They are kind of a pale green with like almost like a brown slipper to them, but they do have their uniqueness. The Pops Macrobay or Macrobay Pops has a lot more furs or fuzziness on the sepals, but still beautiful. So this one here, again, grew from here. Now this one here, when she was in bloom, looked like she blooms from a sheath. Again, I'll have to wait until each one of them bloom for me again, as I say with confidence, to see how each one develops their spike, whether it's sheath first, then a spike. But a lot of times their sheaths look like another leaf, so you do have to be careful with that and not get too excited, as we like to do. And then last but not least, we have Macrobay Pops. This is the last one that I bought in, apparently November was my month for Paphiopedilums. But this fan here, right here, produced this fan, which is now producing this fan. And I have noticed that this fan here is growing a lot quicker, and this fan is growing a lot quicker than the, which one was this? The Xinyi Heart and the Hungshin Red Apple. So the heart and the apple are growing a lot slower in their growth than the Spring Pleasure and the Macrobay Pops. So I don't know if that has to do with what's in their parentage, because I have not gotten that deep into these guys quite yet. Again, I bought them for the pretty blooms and the foliage. I just like the fact that the foliage provides an interest when they're not in bloom, because most of the time this is what we're buying orchids for, so we can have those blooms. But then when they're not in bloom and they're just green, sometimes we can get a little bored with them. And These guys kind of thrive on my neglect. I do look at them, but unlike a lot of my other orchids, I don't pick them up every day. So I think that's part of the success of these. And again, like I said, I water them once a week, and once a month they do get some fertilizer. For those of you who've grown Paphiopedilums for a while, leave in the comments down below if you have any suggestions on what I can do to help improve the health of these guys and continue their health. The health of these guys. Wow. I was not thinking, was I? Anyway, thanks again for stopping by. Go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't. I appreciate it. And for those of you who have subscribed, thank you so very much. And we'll see you guys on the next one.